Here for Women Supporting Women Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we are here at 9:15 to talk to a wonderful female about their journey, how they are surviving, how they are doing, breaking barriers in the community. And tonight we have Dr. Jamelle Ellis, the founder and CEO of Empowerment Strategies. How you doing, lady?
I am doing great. Thank you. Thank you, Ruth, for having me this evening.
Yes, it's so good to have you here. I know you're doing amazing things with the STEM program. Tell us a little bit about you and about your walk and your story.
I want to start by saying that I am from the low country of South Carolina. I'm from Charleston, South
Yes,
Carolina. And
right down the
I
street.
was, that's right. I was really fortunate to have four living grandparents until I was well into my adulthood. And,
That's a blessing.
one of the things that I was able to gain from them, they were in rural areas. And so I grew up on the farm. And, they really helped, particularly my grandfathers helped to instill in me a love, a stewardship almost of land. So I did a lot outside with them in the kind of farming, gardening space, not animals. That wasn't my thing. But but
Right.
right, no.
Right.
So
I was not messing with
I
animals.
I had to do some things, but I was definitely an unwilling participant. So yes. But I went to school, undergrad, and came out and started working. This part of my story, I really just want to get through very quickly because I just developed a passion for the environmental space.
Wow.
Went back and worked on my environmental master's of science in environmental engineering, and then came out and worked some years and went back and worked on my doctoral degree in environmental health sciences. I talked to you some about the fact that I decided to start my own company at the end of December, and
Mm-hmm.
It was a hard decision because you can't just make a decision to walk away from your job and
Right.
just start anew like that. But I felt like God put it in my heart and really just started giving me some clarity. And it takes some time to build your business model, figure out what you want to do. But for me, it was really about assigning what I do with my life to my passion and my purpose. And so I started an environmental sustainability consulting firm. And then within that company, I have a youth division, and that's my empowerment strategies for girls. And, one of the main reasons why it was important for me is because I really want for young girls and young women to see themselves in STEM majors in college, see themselves in STEM careers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what a lot of those challenges look like when you're the only person in a space or, one of a few, in an auditorium full of hundreds of people. It's very difficult to really get your bearings and feel like you belong in that space and feel supported. So those are that's really some of the main motivations. And obviously you don't really have to be deeply into the research to know that there's just not a lot of representation for brown and black minority students or women in general in STEM fields.
Right.
And so, all of those things are critically important to me in terms of why I'm doing empowerment strategies for girls. One thing I will say, and for me, this is kind of where I want to spend the time because I feel like anybody can do, if there are a million people, literally a million people, who can walk young people through like hands-on STEM exercises, activities. But I believe that you really have to build young people from the inside out.
Yeah.
And so my program is not just about STEM programs.
Okay.
It truly is about empowerment. And you can't empower somebody by doing science experiments.
Right.
You can expose them to new things, but you really have to work with the whole person.
Right.
So one thing one thing that I'll tell you is I have two sons and a daughter. And in general, and I'm this is just in general. I don't want to cast a wide net over everybody, but in general, boys, they perform better, um, or they feel better about themselves when they perform better, right?
Right.
Girls have to feel good about themselves in order to perform better.
Right.
And so for me in working with girls, it really is important to me that I work with the person from the inside out and help them to understand their value and their self-worth, strengthen their decision-making skills, and really pair them up with other peers and mentors to kind of help them in that space.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Are you seeing a more of an influx of brown and black girls and when it comes to the program, or is it still something that is you constantly having to like explain?
I don't really think that I've been in a position. I have been incredibly blessed so far in this journey. I have some partners. The school district here locally has really been a great partner. And so, I have probably had 3 programs. I'm in the middle of working with a cohort of freshman college students actually that graduated last year, all African American students at various colleges and universities across South Carolina. And we just submitted another grant, and I'm hoping that one's a 7-year program. And those are all with girls. That I don't know what the demographic will be specifically in terms of like the ethnic minority, but but no, so far it has been, it's really just kind of been working in that way where we had a virtual event back in March. We'll have another virtual event July 24th. The one in March was a co-ed event. The one in July will be just for girls. So it's been, and then we had speakers, college students, as well as professionals. And I would say 99% of the speakers were African American.
That is a blessing. You're creating a window for jobs. You're creating a window for, Black educated, entrepreneurs in the STEM program or in anything that they may do. You're really setting the tone for them. And I think that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. One of the things that I think for me, growing up, I felt there were times. I am from a big family. I have a huge family whom I love to pieces, but I felt kind of invisible sometimes.
Right.
And I was the oldest girl on both sides.
Okay.
And so very much fell into the role of either caretaker or, but I was in this kind of weird middle ground between, my aunts and my cousins. And so, I don't blame it on that, but there's a number of factors that kind of played into that. And you don't realize that there's a gap there until you get older and you're kind of working in that space. Have you heard of the imposter syndrome?
Yes.
So that's definitely one of the other motivators. If that's not something you address when you're younger, or somebody helps you to address it, you have to come face to face with that at some point and really own your space.
It's true.
Yeah.
And we get so caught up in just, whatever is going on around us. And I too am the oldest of my siblings. And so we definitely take on a big responsibility, and we are kind of like the mom of the group. And, I find myself having conversations with my siblings about me being the oldest and me being the mother figure for them. My situation is a little different because, we grew up without our parents. So I had to play that mother role. But realistically, I really was like the mother in a sense, not just the older sister. And so even now, I find myself having to bridge that gap with my siblings and just explain things, explain who family members are, explain just so much, and sometimes it's overwhelming. So
Mhm.
being in that space, it either teaches you resilience and teaches you to continue to push forward and to hold things together, or it teaches you
Mhm.
to just fall apart and just not
Right.
not accept this the challenge or what's in front of you. And I just chose the latter, and based on what you telling me, you chose the latter too.
I
So
chose the latter. But you know what? Let me tell you, self love, self acceptance. It is
yes.
a journey. It is a
Yes.
journey, and it's something that you have to work. You have to be intentional about it. And so, even though I chose the latter, it has been a fight to get there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well,
And
you
so,
did
and
amazing. You look amazing. I
thank
mean,
you.
I know it's a lot, even just getting your doctorate. That's something I plan to do in the future, Lord Jesus. If I so look, I would love to be able to say Dr. Proctor. So I think that's
Absolutely. Well,
really
you count
amazing.
me in as a part of your network when you get ready to do that. So,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
yes.
So what are you, I know you are doing all these amazing things with your business, but what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for Dr. Ellis? I know you told me to call you
So
Jamelle.
that's right. You can call me Jamelle. Ruth. Here's the thing. I mentioned to you, I have a daughter who's in
Mhm.
college, and she's very much like me. She is a hustler. She's very
I love
driven,
it. Good.
and just a brilliant young lady. But one of the things that I'm always on her about is balance. What are you doing to kind of back up and take care of yourself? You need to take a
Right.
break. You need to eat right. You need to have some
Right.
quiet time. And it's funny because I'm in the middle of learning how to do that myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been so fortunate because I would say that it's been within the past maybe 3 years that I have great friends, but I have really gotten very close with two or three women who know how to do self care.
That's
So
good. I love it.
I almost have personal coaches. And just stepping away. Sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
get to a point where you're like, you know what, I have to stop.
Yep.
Today is over. I
Mm-hmm.
have 12 more things on my to-do list,
Right.
but life will go on if I
Yep.
wait until tomorrow to get to it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
so if it's walking, if it's taking just a Saturday at 1 o'clock to go take a bath and shut the door.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
Exactly.
what I'm finding is that it's just being intentional about my personal space. So
Yes.
yeah. And
That has been the word.
so
Intentional. I
now
love it.
you strike me as being an extrovert. Very much so. And I'm not an extrovert by nature. I just, when I have a job to do, I have to get it done.
Right.
But
Right.
I have got to recharge.
Yes.
So when you're running like that and you're constantly kind of on,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm finding is that if I'm not intentional about stepping back and taking that
Right.
time for myself, then it catches up with you.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I'm an extrovert, but truthfully, I'm an introvert too. I have when I'm home, I'm home. I'm just like,
Yeah.
tunnel vision. I want to be
Yeah.
left alone. I want to listen to my music. I want to sit on my porch
That's
and
right.
just zone out. And I would really like I'm really comfortable being at home and being, with my kids and just relaxing. I really don't have to do a lot and be out with people.
Yeah.
And even sometimes when I'm out with people, I'm still an introvert. So I'll be having to just like, get out of, shake myself and be like, okay, you got to talk, you got to communicate. But a lot of
Yeah.
times, like I'll be in a room, I have shades on and I'm on my phone. I'm like, I don't feel like being bothered. And so I
Right.
really have to tell myself, like, it's okay to feel like that sometimes, but you also have to be present and
That's
you have to
right.
be present for people, especially people that you care about, you love, so
Absolutely.
I try to just be present with people that I'm around, and I'm very funny about who I surround myself with and who I allow in my space, because
Yeah.
I talk about this all the time, but boundaries are very important. And sometimes the closest people to us are the ones that hurt us and the ones that
That's right.
we have to put boundaries in place with. And so I found that I can love you, but I can love you from afar. I don't have to have a relationship with everybody. I
Oh
don't
my
have to do
goodness.
everything with everybody. I don't got to go on all the trips. I don't go on. I got to go on all the lunch dates. Some
That's
things,
right.
sometimes I need my peace, and sometimes I need to just be home. And so I just pick and choose. But I definitely protect my energy and my space because people will tug and pull at you so much, and you don't, and your cup will be empty because you're pointing to everybody else. So
That's
that's one of
right.
the main reasons why I talk about self-care on here is because most of the people that are up here are moms, they're
Yeah,
entrepreneurs, they're running businesses, they're working in corporate America, whatever they're doing multiple things.
that's
And
right.
we find, especially being, a black mom, we really take on everybody's stuff and we just
Yes.
pack it on and we keep it and we keep moving. But that's not healthy, and we don't really take the time to pour back into us. And so
Right.
I think I really found a turning point when it came to my marriage and when it
Hmm.
came to um leaving that marriage, where I
Hmm.
was like, you know what, I gotta look out for me. And I mean, I
Hmm.
knew that, but when you have a helpmate or supposedly have a helpmate, you sometimes feel like you can allow that person to kind of feed back into you or pour back into you. But when you're not getting that, and I wasn't getting that at all, you become empty. And so I
Right.
had to learn to say, okay, you know what? I can't pour into that person no more. I can't pour into this person no more because guess what? Ruth is empty. And
That's
so I had
right.
to put those barriers and those boundaries in place so that I could be okay and so that I could get out of that hole and so
That's
that I could be
right.
healthy and be a good mom. And so now I find myself saying, you know what? Like you said, I can't get that done today. And I got to have grace with myself. I got to
That's
have
right.
grace to know that, you know what? Today I got 3 things done on my list. And you know what? And that's okay because I
And
got those
that's
3 things
okay.
done. Yep.
Right. Right. It's interesting because we have as a nation, as a as a as the world, a global
Hmm.
society, been through craziness here over the
Yes.
past year and a half. And
Yes.
I know so many people who have been impacted. I have been
Right.
impacted. My
Right.
family has been hit,
Hmm.
with COVID as well.
Right.
And and so there is that part of it that you have to deal with. But
Yes.
the other side of it is that for somebody like me, who before COVID, I was, and not that I'm not running now, but it's if you didn't experience some kind of shift during COVID,
Right.
something's wrong.
Exactly.
Um, I think I got into a space where it wasn't until COVID, and there are millions of people who are with me on this. I know.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't realize how uninhabited my home was,
Right.
and so it really forced me. It forced us to really spend some more time turning
Right.
our actual house into a home. But
Yep.
then on top of that, you know, I found spaces like my personal
Hmm.
space
Right.
where I go to just, read and meditate and pray.
Yes.
It's my space.
Yep.
And I have barred other people from, like, listen, this is a no problem zone. So
Exactly.
if this is going to be like a really stressful conversation, we need
Right.
to move this outside of this space.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
but I don't think I really thought about it the same way before COVID. You know that you
Right.
need it,
Right.
but COVID really just pressed me to be, again, I hate to keep using the word intentional, but
I
truly to
love it.
be intentional about the
Yes.
decisions that I was making about self-care. So
I think
yeah.
intentional is definitely the key, the word this year. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
that's something we all have to do. And I think that we don't really do that enough in being intentional on being positive, being intentional on self-care, being intentional on, positive affirmations,
Right.
redirecting those negative thoughts. And I think that's something that I constantly am working on and I'm constantly doing it. And I was talking to my girlfriend earlier today and she was like, you know, you say that you're not mad, but it's your tone. And when
Hmm.
she said it, I had to sit in that for a second, and that's something else I've talked about in the past too, is, having an accountability partner, having someone to say, you know what, with Jamelle, I know you're saying this, but you know what? maybe you should go back and look at that, and really having someone to help, correct us, because, we all have someone that we got to answer to. And
That's right.
I tell my sister that all the time, like, if you don't have anybody, a person that doesn't have anybody to answer to is a dangerous person.
That's right.
So having her say, you know what, it's not what you're saying, it's your tone. Your tone says that you're still angry. Your tone says that you are bothered. You're telling me that you're bothered. And you can lie to me, but you can't lie to yourself.
Right.
And I had to sit in that, and I had to own that. And I said, you know what, you're right. You're right. I guess I am still upset about this. And maybe I'm not upset. Maybe I'm angry. Maybe it's not, because me, I'm one of those people, I'd be like, you know what, I don't care. Whatever. And I really might care. But I don't care. It just sounds better. It feels good. That's how I cope.
It's self-preservation.
Right. Sometimes our coping skills aren't what we need to be doing. We need to really deal with the issue. And
That's right.
I had to listen.
So I'll tell you, this is for young people. When I do my programming for young women, there are like 4 things that I typically ground everything on, but it's really been because of my journey and some of what you're talking about right now in terms of, protecting your space. And you talked about this earlier, but there are like 4 key things that have helped me. And I've really tried to, especially in the self-confidence building and leadership development space.
Right.
And I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. But the 4 things that I really focus on is 1, embracing your uniqueness. And I'm gonna take it to scripture real quick.
Yes, take it. Let's do it.
But 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 talks about us being a peculiar people.
Yes.
And of course, Webster defines the word peculiar as like odd or unusual or different or something like that. But the Latin version of that is a people of God's own possession. We're unique and we're special. And so I used to have people say to me when I would say, I'm okay with being peculiar. I am a peculiar person. Exactly. And I'm okay with that. I don't fit in boxes. I don't fit neatly into, spaces typically.
Right.
It took me a long time as part of that self-love, self-acceptance journey, but I fully accept the fact that I'm a little different. So it's important to me that when I'm working with, girls, young women, that, I continue to really push that point home is to embrace your uniqueness. You're here as you are for a reason. Exactly. So then the second thing is just that, and that's finding your purpose, I love it. It's true. So that's right. So Jeremiah 29:11 states that I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, right? And so people, and you can go on and finish reading the verse, but after you hear that part about declares the Lord, that's your purpose. If God himself in scripture is telling you that I have a plan for you, then you know that every person walking this earth is here with purpose. And I don't really believe that you find your purpose. I think you discover it. So I think, you have children, I have children. I don't know what your experience is, but my 3 children were born with their personalities. It's in their DNA. It may evolve and we help shape who they are, but we can't change people's DNA and who they are, because God's given them a set of gifts and talents, and that's their toolkit. We have to help them build that toolkit. So whether it's women or girls, I think it's important that and for women, Ruth, that we really help reinforce and lift each other, because when you get in the daily grind, when you get in the middle of all of the pressures that we have, it's important that you go back to that whole lesson of I'm here with purpose, you know?
Right.
And so that's my second thing, but I'll tell you one of my, if not my favorite scripture, it's definitely one of my favorites. And that's Colossians 3:23 and 24. I write this in every graduation card. this is how I encourage my kids and other kids that are my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that, whatever you do it as if you're doing it for God himself and not worldly masters.
Right.
And so, all of that ties into your purpose,
Right.
but you have to stay focused.
Yes.
And so the third thing is write your vision and make it plain.
Mm.
And, we hear the whole write your vision piece of it.
Right.
But the rest of that verse talks about writing it on tablets or on tables, depending on the version.
Mm-hmm.
And can I share like a short
story?
Yes,
please.
Okay. So my daughter is one of the most organized people I know in terms of her personal goals.
Wow.
And I'm a Girl Scout leader. I've been a Girl Scout leader. I think I'm in my 17th year.
Oh my goodness. I was a Girl Scout until I turned like 17.
So did you earn your gold award?
Yes. And I had all my sashes. I don't know where they are.
So I so love everything that Girl Scouts is about. And clearly my daughter has graduated and I'm still there pushing through, trying to support my girls and Girl Scouts.
That's good. No, that's so good.
But, one of the things that I started working with them on when they were in middle school is doing vision boards or dream boards, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And, as parents, we talk about things, we keep talking, and nothing seems like it really like sticks.
Right.
And so my daughter had always said, she did her vision boards in Girl Scouts. We would talk about her dreams throughout every year, her goals, but I didn't revisit the vision board itself. I just had conversations with her. Mm. So this is such an incredible story to me. She had always said she wanted to study abroad when she went to school, and she spent her first year of college in Europe. So she went to London for the first 2 semesters, and then she spent the summer in Panama. And we had people to ask us, "Aren't you concerned about her going away?" And she's tiny. She's a small young lady. They're like, "Well, aren't you concerned about her going away?" And my whole thing is, why do you prepare people to soar, fly like a bird, and then slap up a barrier on their ceiling, right? You can't do that.
That's so true.
Well, when we went to orientation for the international studies, and I say this for, I want to share this with everybody because I think this is so important. When we were there, they split us up and the parents were together for the first day or two.
Okay.
And they took the students and they had the students go away and they did this orientation. And on the last day of this program, they brought everybody back together. And she and I were standing out in this atrium. People were all over the place. And neither one of us were talking, which is rare because we're always talking to each other.
That's good.
So I looked at her. I said, how are you feeling about everything? And she said, "Mom, I really can't believe this is really happening. We've been planning for this since I was in 6th grade. When we got home, my husband went in her room for something. I can't even, just went in her room to look for something, tell her something. On the back of her door of her bedroom, the entire thing was covered. And I had looked at the back of her door in her bedroom. Wow. She had built a dream board that covered the entire back of her door in her bedroom. And everything that was happening in that moment was a part of the dream board. Travel to London, go to school at this school, just, enter into this program. And so I always tell people that it's not enough to just dream. Mm-hmm. It's one of my things is turning dreamers into dream achievers, but you gotta write it down.
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta write it down. And then the last thing, Miss Ruth, is filtering the voices.
Oh
my gosh, you talked about this, but you got to be able to set aside those negative voices. And sometimes those negative voices come from people that you love, well intentioned. But you have to be in a space where you can filter out the voices. And so, you had someone, I think Dr. Katrina Williams, who visited you, and she made a comment. She said you need to be you need stress to be strong. That's that whole thing of sharpening iron kind of thing.
Right.
But I think there's healthy stress,
right,
and there is unhealthy stress. Exactly. Unhealthy stress.
I agree.
And you got to be able to really determine, which things are important. And I have to call out my daughter. She's like, written goals are important. They are important. So I have a story that I also want to share. And you may have heard this before about elephants. Do you know how they train elephants?
A little bit, not a whole lot. Look, I might get in trouble for that. Look.
That's okay. This is something I shared. This is one of the stories that I shared with my children and with the Girl Scouts several times. What they do with elephants, and I'm going to simplify this. Essentially, they put a chain around the elephant's, one of his legs, ankles, if you will, and then they stake it. And so let's just say it's 12 feet. And that elephant learns that it can't go, but they whip the elephants. They whip the elephants. They whip the elephants. So it's a lot of physical abuse that generally takes place. The elephant learns that space that they can operate in is that diameter, that circumference that is created by that ball and chain. I'm linked where this is as far as I can go. And it becomes their mental mindset. And so that's the box that we find ourselves in so often. You get beat up by life and circumstances and people, and then you start limiting yourself based on barriers that other people have created for you. And so eventually, circus trainers or, other whatever other venues, elephants traditionally, I think they've stopped that practice now, but once they take that off, those chains off the elephant, they still typically stay within those boundaries because they've been trained that this is your box and you function within this box. Right. And if we're not careful, the voices that we allow to feed into our consciousness becomes our box, And so those are the four things that I think for me, when I start putting together programs and really working with young people, young ladies, one-on-one or in group settings, is to really start to help them rephrase and rethink their place. Right. And in this case, it's typically STEM, but we have some conversations about other spaces as well. You belong, period. Yeah.
It's so true. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, what you say to yourself matters the most. Yeah. It don't matter what your mama say. It don't matter what your daddy say. It don't matter what your man say. What you say to yourself every day, when you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself in that mirror, what you say to you matters the most. Yeah. And what's so funny is the other day, my little cousin, she's like 19 years old. She sent me a clip of Alicia Keys. And it was Alicia Keys saying that she learned this I think from a tribe, and she looks in the mirror for 7 minutes and she tells herself how much she loves her. She takes it in. She looks at her body. She tells herself that she loves every bit of her body, her lips, her mouth, her eyes. She constantly speaks positive, and she looks at herself. Right. And she doesn't stop looking at herself until 7 minutes is up. And she does every day. I think it was like 21 days. And so I told my little cousin, I was like, you know what? We starting tomorrow. And every day I keep forgetting, but I'm going to do it tonight.
You have to set a timer. You have to send a reminder to yourself if you're like me. But I think that's amazing. Yes. Yeah, 21 days is supposed to be that period of time that if you do it consecutively, it becomes a habit. I might try that myself. I love that. Too. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I was like, I got to do that. I'm like, yes, I got to do that because I'm constantly redirecting. I'm constantly, making sure that I do positive affirmations, and I do devotion, or I listen to TD Jakes or Sarah Jakes or my pastor, or I listen to somebody that's pouring into me, into my
That's right.
spirit, And lately, I was telling one of my friends the other day, lately I've been in a space of just quiet. And I
Yeah.
know that is a reason. I know is because normally, if I'm home, I turn on some music. I got it blasting. I'm cooking, and I got my music blasting when I'm working. But the last month or so, I have just been in a space of quiet.
Yeah.
Riding home, in silence. And I have an hour and a half ride home from my office, and so I'll just ride home in silence, just
Yeah.
hearing God's voice, making sure I process what happened today. Make sure I process, whatever it is that happened, or that I didn't like, or if I say something I wish I didn't say. Now I
Right.
find myself really processing things more. And I think he has me in a space of hearing.
Yeah.
So what you say to yourself matters so much. If you tell yourself you're ugly every day, then that's what you're gonna feel. If you
That's
tell yourself
right.
you're beautiful every day, then that's what you're gonna believe. So
Right.
I think that we gotta really, really normalize self-love, self-care, and just really pouring back into ourselves. And like you said, just redirecting those negative energies and those
Yeah.
negative thoughts, because the devil gonna play. He gonna touch on the areas that are that are our weaknesses. He
That's
knows.
right.
And if you're worrying about money, he's gonna play with money. If you're
Right.
worrying about your family, he's gonna play with your family. If you're worrying about your health, he's gonna play with your health. And so I think that if we think positive, we'll be positive, and we'll continue
Right.
to exude that, and other people will see it.
Right.
And um, today earlier I was at the gym, and one of the ladies that she works out there too sometimes, and she was like, I just want to come give you a hug because I want to feel that energy on you. I just want to feel your energy and your spirit. And I was just like, and for a second I was like, wow. And
Right.
I think I really finally heard her, and I was just like, I gotta be careful with that.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. You do.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've learned, I am kind of naturally a loving person, so
Mhm.
it's always that I want to help.
Yep.
I want to help people solve their problems. If
Hmm.
there's something going, I want to be a listening ear, show them to
Right.
cry, and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily want to change that. It's
Right.
just being very just deliberate about the
Yes.
interactions. Because there are some individuals who will use that positive energy and
Exactly.
become a drain. They will suck that
Right.
off, and
Yes.
you're depleted. So, but there are people though, that I've met in recent years in particular that meet me. So there's a reciprocation and sort of
Mhm.
pouring into each other.
Right.
And it's not necessarily that takes place all at the same time.
Right. Right.
There are times when you need that from somebody, that space,
Exactly.
and then there are times where you put your own needs behind or set
Right.
them aside and pour
Hmm.
into others that need you. But again, I
Right.
think even that is maybe not for everybody, but for me,
Right.
that has definitely been a learned behavior,
Hmm.
because I've
It's
been
so true.
burnt.
Yes.
So, right,
Yes.
right.
Me
So,
too.
yeah. But I have a friend that tells me, I'll tell them, I have to be so careful about this. And she reminds me, but I don't want you to change. You
Right.
just need to be careful about,
Right.
how you engage. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I want to thank you so much for being up here today. Tell everybody how they can follow you and how they can support your cause on all social
Absolutely.
medias and your website.
Absolutely. So, first, thank you so much, Ruth, for having me this evening. I adore the work that you're doing,
Thank you.
and I'm just grateful for you giving me a platform this evening to speak with you on your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
I have programs, some of them, I have several programs with the school system here, but we've got some programs that are coming up in terms of a virtual it's called Limitless Life Girls in
Okay.
STEM event. And my Instagram page is ES4Girls. There's also an ES4Girls.com and ES4Youth.com that they can go to find out more about those programs. That program is geared towards high school, college age students.
Okay.
We've got another program that's starting July 10th, and that is a mentor matching program. It's a 12-month program. We'll meet monthly. We'll have professionals come in and speak monthly on different topics, professional societies, scholarships, that sort of thing. And then we will also match them with a professional mentor that will help them in the field that they're interested in. So that starts July 10th.
That's amazing.
And you can also go to my Instagram page, again, ES4Girls,
yes.
Or ES4Youth or ES4Girls.com. And then this is not necessarily something, we've got some middle school programs that are coming up as well. My next program that's coming up is actually a pilot program. So it's not necessarily open, but I'm so excited to be working with a partner in Jamaica with a group of middle school students, girls. Yay!
That is so amazing.
And she is amazing. So I'm looking forward to working with them and really using that program and the things that we learn together to come back and implement some programming here in the States.
That is amazing.
With middle school students. Yeah.
That is amazing. And I had definitely put all your information in the link below. That way everyone can see and learn more about you. And if you on my Instagram, you can click the link for her name, and then it would take you to her page as well. And everything will be in the links below for you guys to be able to follow her and follow her journey. That is so amazing. I'm so happy and proud for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love it. And anything that I could do to support the cause, please let me know. I would love to come and talk to the kids.
Oh, absolutely.
I would love. South Carolina's one state over.
That's right. I know exactly where you're located, so I don't mind reaching out. And North Carolina is a part of it's in my footprint, so that's not a hard leap. So I appreciate so much the time that you've given me this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on here. And as always, guys, we are here every Wednesday for Women Supported Women Wednesday at 9:15 here on YouTube. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.